I'm here with an exclusive interview for DST's 25th Anniversary Fan Fest. Today, Marketing Supervisor Zach Oat is talking to photographer Peter Minges, who is responsible for a lot of the great toy photography coming out of Diamond Select Toys and Gentle Giant Ltd. And now, here's Zach.
Thank you, Natasha. I'm here with photographer Peter Minges, who is the brains behind a lot of the photography that you see coming out of Diamond Select Toys and Gentle Giant Limited. And we wanted to talk to him today about his process and his origin story and all that. So let's just take it away. Peter Minges, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Hey, Zach. Thanks for having me on.
So where did you first learn how to use a camera? Very, very basic first question. Was it from your childhood or was it when you were older?
Yeah, my father was really into photography. He didn't do anything professionally with it, but he was into photography and cars, and I kind of got that from him. And basically that was his passion, just driving around with the camera at all times. And whenever he saw something cool, we would just pull off to the side of the road and just, go have fun. So it was always something that I was comfortable with and familiar with, but I never really considered it a sort of professional opportunity until I moved to Los Angeles and kind of I was in IT before that, and that was just a little dry. So I started looking around to see what I could possibly do out here. And photography was something that sort of came naturally, and there are a lot of opportunities in LA. So I was pretty fortunate in that regard.
So you did you have a formal training in photography, or was it primarily the IT side of things where you got your education?
So I actually, I went to school for advertising. So I went to a school in a small market in Nashville, where I'm from originally, and I was very fortunate to graduate during the financial crisis. So everyone had to get a little bit scrappy back then. So I ended up in IT just because that was where the opportunities were. So when we moved out to LA, I decided to sort of do something a little different. And I looked into web design, and I realized how difficult it was to make good looking websites with bad photography. So I was like, oh, I'll just take a couple classes. Maybe I'll get better vacation photos. And I really enjoyed it so much. I decided let's look at this as a real professional opportunity. So I kind of did the web design and photography, product photography for a bit. And then I just decided to go all in on photography. And that's been about 5 years ago now.
So how did you transition into shooting prototypes for GG?
So I did, when I went to school out here at Santa Monica College, they have a great commercial program, and they actually sort of connect you with producers and on-set opportunities. So I was working quite a bit in the commercial photography world as an assistant, an occasional photographer, and another role they call a digital technician, which is essentially on-set IT for big commercial photo shoots. And things were going really well. We were having fun. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously that kind of slowed things down. So after a couple months of things being slower than I preferred, I started looking around for sort of in-house opportunities. And that's when I saw the posting for here at GG. And it went really well. The interview was fun. I got to meet a couple guys on the team here. And luckily things went well. And I started in the December 2020.
Did you ever imagine yourself in this space shooting collectibles when you were studying photography?
Absolutely not. This is actually way better than I ever could have imagined. Not only is it fun and interesting, I always talk about how rare this opportunity is to be able to shoot something like this professionally. There's probably only a handful of people in the country and maybe even the world that get to do this. So I do feel fortunate every day I get to come in here and shoot.
That's great. Can you walk us through the process of what you shoot and when you shoot it?
Sure. It's basically a kind of a 3-stage process. The first one is approvals. So after the sculptors and the painters do their thing, which I'm fortunate to work with so many talented people here. Once they are happy with the product, we'll take sort of very clean and simple lighting photos that are very color accurate, and we'll send them off to Disney or Marvel or whomever for approvals. And essentially, a lot of times they'll say, great work, move on to the next stage. Sometimes they'll ask for small changes in the coloring or the shading, and that goes back to the painters. And once they're happy, I'll do another round of approvals. And then after that, once everybody's happy, we'll move to what we call the catalog shots. It's a little bit more involved, but still very simple. It's shots on white with a little bit more interesting lighting and a lot more angles, where I'll get in and show the details of all the individual pieces. And then once everybody's happy at that stage, that's when we go over to our hero shots that we do in front of our LED screen here. That's what you guys see on the websites and social media accounts.
What are some of the challenges and benefits of using a digital LED background instead of a practical background?
Essentially, just the amount of options that we have, and it's really easy to sort of customize the mood or the scene for the figure, and not only just the character themselves, but the pose that the sculptors are trying to sort of like recreate, and the emotion that they're trying to sort of like emulate from, usually from a comic book or a movie or a TV show. So we always try to sort of lean into the direction of the sculpt themselves. So, and it's, quite often I have the luxury of having an idea and I put it up behind the figure and it's like, oh, it doesn't work out like I planned. So we'll just scrap it and move on to the next one, which is one of the biggest benefits of having a digital background to work with.
Are there certain types of products that you find more challenging to photograph or more enjoyable to photograph of what you're doing there?
Well, I always talk about how Darth Vader is obviously like my biggest challenge here, because he's basically his helmet. Anyone that has a shiny helmet, it's kind of like a fisheye lens. So it captures the studio and the BTS and everything you want to show and a lot of things you don't. So we have to get a little bit more creative with how we sort of flag things and sort of block off the rest of the room to Darth. But the only other character I would say that's probably more challenging than Darth Vader would be the Silver Surfer, which is just a character that's just big mirrors. So you get to see what shirt I'm wearing for the day, if I have anything in my teeth, all the things that you're trying to hide as a photographer.
A lot of our customers have an interest in toy photography. What advice would you give to aspiring toy photographers, aside from don't shoot anything highly reflective?
It's just shoot. Shoot. How do you get good at making cheeseburgers? You make a lot of bad cheeseburgers. So the more practice you have and the more you find yourself in these situations where you're trying to, let's say you have a guy that has a cape or a cloak and like, oh, that creates shadows on the figures. So once you kind of find certain solutions that make your figures look the best, you get to use that the next time you run into that problem. So shoot, and if you can ever find someone to collaborate with, things are always so much easier if you have someone else that has a good eye or is passionate about the figures. Sometimes I'll reach out to people here in the office because I'm a big Marvel and X-Men and Spider-Man fan specifically. So if an X-Men comes across my desk, I know exactly what I want to do. But we have people here that are really passionate about Lord of the Rings. So those guys have a lot more context and sort of inspiration when it comes to figuring out how we want to show these characters off. So if you can actually have a friend that's into this, you'll be amazed at how things evolve and how much more quickly they evolve if you do have somebody like a sounding board you can bounce ideas off of.
Outside of working with DST, what types of photography do you enjoy? Projects, subject matter. What's your general enjoyment area for photography?
Personally, I really enjoy traveling. So taking interesting photos when I'm abroad or just traveling around California is obviously a big sort of source of inspiration for me. I'm fortunate to know some really talented photographers out here, and it's just if you have a little bit of that competitive streak in you, you get to see someone else doing great work, and you're like, well, okay, apparently this is where the bar is. So you get to sort of raise your game to keep up with everybody else. But before I was in IT, I worked in restaurants. So I really enjoy doing food photography and things like that. So it's, once again, it's any day in photography is better than a day than I spent in IT. So it's all going pretty well so far. It's all good to me.
Are there any creative projects you're working on outside of DST right now that you'd like to talk about?
Sure. It's going back to the collaboration thing. I've actually have a food stylist that I've been speaking with. So I'm working with basically updating my portfolio because, you got to make sure that you stay relevant and you show people new work. But I actually got to work on a job yesterday because I still get to do freelance work where I was assisting another photographer and we were working with a robotic arm. So we were doing these like very sort of dialed in and controlled splashes and things like that. And it was just really cool to see how far the tech has evolved just in the last few years. So it's there's always new and fun projects you want to get out there and work with. And we're fortunate to be in Los Angeles. And there's a lot of very talented people doing really cool stuff out there.
That's great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, Peter. I really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Zach, thanks again for inviting me on to talk, and hope you guys have a great day.
And everybody stay tuned for more videos where we're interviewing people behind the scenes at Diamond Select Toys and Gentle Giant Limited. And also check out our showcases where we're covering the worlds of Marvel, Star Wars, and the world of entertainment. And we will see you at the conventions this summer and this fall. Take it easy.